I'm Mary Scott. I'm an artist. I work across media, drawing, painting, and I work with objects. I sometimes do digital prints too, large format digital prints. As well as an artist, I also work as an academic, and that means that I teach at university, and I'm teaching mostly in drawing at the moment, but I have taught in painting before. I'm a constant book reader, and I'm naturally curious, and I think for anyone entering into a career in the arts, they have to have that curiosity. My practice naturally is working across drawing, thinking, reading, making, looking, visiting museums. I'm a chronic museum person. I love going into museums, and not just to see the things that I think I want to see. I also try and go to things that I wouldn't normally go and see, so that it expands my way of thinking about objects. All that research is very important to building up an image. I'm not someone that works everything out through making, as a lot of artists do that. I need to step back and think about things, work through things, and then come at an image again. But I think I do a lot of that working out in that process of gathering and thinking and scanning across stuff and trying to put things together. I fear that we're losing our connection to nature. We tend to look at things through screens and through media these days, and our contact with nature is getting more and more removed. I think we can think creatively with nature in terms of the stillnesses and the tempests of nature. So nature's very emotional to me, and I find it a very meditative place to go and think. The materials and the visuality of the world just gives us a whole lot of nuances that we just don't get through screens. There's a whole lot of things that we miss. The tactile sense of using our whole sensory body when we engage with the world. It's in the nuances that we find surprise, and it's in the nuance that we can see things differently that actually maybe enable us to see the world differently. Well, this image that I selected to do for the Hobart City Art Prize, it's called the seer. A seer is someone that's there observing and looking, and it's interesting because she hasn't actually got eyes. It's the fourth in the series I've done around this. The other ones were called The Breathing of the Terrestrial Machine, and that came from Leonardo. In his Codex Hamer, he spoke about man and the earth being like machines. I was particularly drawn to the series of water studies, and they're very powerful because he uses line work, which I don't use very much. I'm much more into tonal work, but the way he uses the line to describe the motion of the water has this very strong sense of embodiment. They're very powerful in that sense. They're very physical. They're almost like hair, human hair. So again, there seems to be these close connections to the body. These sort of hybrid forms, cross-human, cross-natural forms, seem to sort of emerge out of that process. So the seer to me is this idea, this person that just sort of sits back and lets it wash past and is very comfortable in that. Instead of a sketchbook in the way that a traditional artist works, I work with Photoshop. I scan a whole lot of imagery in and play around with it till I get something that I start to feel is something that I can work with. I'm not interested in making a resolved image in the computer. I actually like to keep the material quite rough because I want to be able to resolve the image through the drawing rather than through the digital media. I usually have a range of ideas that I'm working with, and so I will work with those in the computer. Sometimes that can be for quite a long time. It might be several months. And sometimes things get abandoned because they just never come to fruition. There's a lot of stuff that gets abandoned. We don't often talk about that. It's important to abandon stuff and realise that it's not working. Behind every image there's probably another 10 or 12 images to get to that. Charcoal's great because in a way it's a bit like painting. You can build it up in layers more than some of the other drawing media. Because with charcoal you can work back and forth very quickly, it means that you can pull images out, and it's a bit like working with clay, and so you push back into it and you make your pencil harder, and then you pull out of it and you can get a rubber and work back into it. So it's a very instant and tactile process. So to start an image, particularly with charcoal, I usually lay down what I call a wash, which sounds a bit silly with charcoal, but it is a wash. I rub it in with tissues and brushes and get an overlay, and for example in this I put a blue down to start with, just to get a blue tonality to the image. And then from that I start to pull the image out so that it starts to look like something. It's probably why I use tone a lot too, because tone allows you again this idea of being able to pull something out of darkness or pull something out of lightness, whichever way you're working. And it's very important too to let the drawing lead the work. The drawing itself is the way that the drawing progresses. So what's happening in the drawing tells me what I need to do next. It's hard work looking at an image. It's really hard work. And you have to be able to get your eyes on that aren't your eyes. And you have to be able to try and see it as though somebody else might see it. I only started this image 10 days ago, but I've worked for 10 days straight on it. I haven't had a break on it. So there's a lot of actual physical manual work, and I think that's something, again, where I see students who learn that. They have to learn that. You have to work at your work. Hobart City Art Prize has very high calibre judges usually, and it's good to go through that process because they're quite often curators of museums and things, so it's really about seeing your work in context of what's happening else in, drawing in Australia at this particular time. It's really important for my students to see my work. I think that's really valuable. I don't go in many prizes. I only go in prizes when I feel I've got something that I want to put in. But they're very serendipitous prizes. I don't have any great illusions about winning these things.
The City of Hobart Art Prize has been running for 28 years. It draws a very good national set of participants, but it also draws a very strong Tasmanian contingent. So there's always a very good bedrock, if you like, of local artists. Well, the definition of drawing is quite difficult. It's not necessarily a pencil and piece of paper. And the drawings in this show will kind of show that, because there's a number of quite challenging media. For the judges, I think it's more about mark making and the kinds of mark making and image creation that relate to the tradition of drawing. The earliest specific drawing winner, that was actually quite a challenging work. That involved sort of torn corrugated cardboard and concrete. So there's some works that really, probably some people are not going to really judge as drawings that have been included in the show that really do push the boundary.
The winner of the 2015 City of Hobart Art Prize for Drawing, Cameron McRae, for his work Donk, Trip, Smack.
When I reflect back on it, I do think that there's something quite valuable for me as an artist in that work. There was something I felt that some presence, physical material presence that I caught in that work that I'm very interested in proceeding with, and I don't think I'd achieved that before. The work's evolving into a sequence of works about the material nature of the world and the way that it can impact on humanity. So I've been also drawing on Leonardo's Deluge series to make a series of pictures about the world in chaos. The other thing that I've recently started making is a series of breathing devices. So in case we do all end up underwater, so I'm making some telescopic breathing devices that allow us to negotiate the outdoor space. In a way, they just bring a lighter element into this idea that we need to care for the world, or it won't care for us.